As Iron Maiden pushed themselves into the second decade of the new millennium, they did not cease their progressive trend. With each album post-2000, they charted new soundscapes, pushed the depths of their expressive forms as a unit, and in general continued their life's journey. With Steve Harris at the helm, the band had always bulldozed through each so-called barricade and not compromised the integrity of their music. This is especially true with their past few albums, and The Final Frontier is a continuation of that theme. The sweeping movements, extended instrumentals, and overall depth of projecting you into the song itself are mostly at full form here. Of course, with a six-man lineup, there's bound to be different levels of interpretation and abilities about how to proceed with certain aspects of the songs. With Iron Maiden, this is usually manifest as a mixed bag album, with some songs not having as much soul or feeling. However, even the lackluster tracks here still have exemplary musicianship and integrity that shines through the deficient aspects of these songs. At their best, Iron Maiden are one of the greatest rock bands in history, and their abilities go far beyond their individual talents on their respective instruments. In really diving into their own psyches on each record through the years, coupled with uncompromising refusal to cave to any outside pressures in the world, has molded their unity into a juggernaut of epic, soulful music that is nearly without peer. Today, I invite you to take a more thorough look into Iron Maiden's most recent effort as of this review, 2010's The Final Frontier. Welcome once again, Iron Maiden faithful, where today we will be reaching the end of the road for now. The Final Frontier marks the end of Iron Maiden's studio albums as of August 2013, but we'll tackle any further releases somewhere down the line. When I first bought this album back in 2010, it was in anticipation of seeing them with Dream Theater in concert down in Detroit. I never got to go, since my wife was about ready to give birth to our son about a month later, and I didn't have anyone else to go with, so I ended up not going. I haven't ruled out going to see them before they decide to hang up the irons, but that's not the point of this story. Starting in the spring of 2010, I began amassing the band's entire back catalog of studio releases that I didn't already possess, which was a significant portion of them. I really gained an appreciation for their style that year, and even though it would be a couple more years before I really did a thorough analysis of why I loved this band so much, the seed was now taking root quickly. I wasn't crazy about this album when I first heard it, and especially my favorite tracks on this album didn't really grab my attention until my endeavors to rate the albums this past year, except the Talisman, which had already steamrolled its way into my favorites about 2 years ago, so about a year after I bought the album. There are some spotty moments on the album, with the three opening tracks, Satellite 15, The Final Frontier, El Dorado, and Mother of Mercy, being my three for the lowest rated on the album. The funny thing is that the first 5 songs steadily climb in ratings, and then the Isle of Avalon and Starblind duo kind of dropped in the ratings. They hover around a 10, and then the final 3 tracks just skyrocketed, gaining the 3 highest ratings on the album, which is fine for me, saving the best for last, as the cliche goes. Even the lower rated tracks, though, are instrumentally very solid, and both sound very different for them. So while they might not be as passionate or esoteric in some ways, they're definitely progressively oriented and are still worth a listen. Now, shall we begin our trials into Iron Maiden's 15th studio record, 2010's The Final Frontier? Join us. Okay, the title track, Satellite 15, The Final Frontier. Well, the second half of this is the title track anyway. It's got a very different sound, especially in the intro, a very industrial kind of vibe. Kind of reminds me of a shuttle launch, which the lyrics kind of seem to be a double entendre, and one aspect being about being stranded in space. The lyrics for the first half kind of seem to be about Steve's continuing tribulation also, and orienting himself into life. Longing for real contact.
The title track half of the song, kind of somber vibe as he enters his twilight years, wanting to stop maybe touring so much, but also not wanting to say goodbye to his family, you know, the fans that he's had all these decades. I literally love the acoustic guitar backdrop underneath it all, and it kind of reminds me in certain ways, similar motif to Weekend Warrior, but doesn't sound like that in the arrangement, just kind of similar vibe in certain ways. The guitar solos for the bridge are very tight, awesome sounding, and it seems like they're really celebrating what they love to do, making music. On some critical or neutral notes, it's very different overall in the sound. It's just not a ton of passion. Feels a little bit forced or hollow and not quite full power. So let's take a look at the rating.
Satellite 15, The Final Frontier, gets a final rating of 8.31 out of 13.
Okay, El Dorado, I believe it was the first single off the album. It's got a really trippy intro with a cool jam session going on and setting the stage for the seedy biopic to follow. The lyrics really showcase the destructive, manipulative, and greedy side of humankind. The power elites and bankers of the world definitely can feel the sliminess and untrustworthiness. Really rubs me the wrong way, and on that regard, it's a well-constructed as far as conveying that kind of a vibe goes. The chorus is catchy, perfect for a single, and I really find myself singing along to this song. The highlight, though, is definitely the instrumental bridge. I love the progressive moments of any songs by any band. It really slowly builds through different movements, riffs, solos. Just a cool and groovy passage, and I really dug it. On neutral or critical notes, again, it's different sounding, but just not a ton of soul, and it doesn't feel totally genuine or passionate to me, so let's see what I gave it.
El Dorado receives a final rating of 8.79 out of 13.
Okay, Mother of Mercy. The first verse, the guitar chord progression and ambience really sounds like he's in the falling rain as the lyrics go. In that note, fitting the lyrics very well. The lyrics are very introspective, good atmosphere, great introspective cross-section of the mind of someone who is religious, coming to the border of self-realization and scrutinizing and questioning the machination of it all with organized religion. The overall tone is very somber, and you can sense the dirty underbelly of the church rearing itself and the feelings that the protagonist has for it. Neutral or critical notes, while it is a good song, there's just some spark missing in the overall atmosphere that doesn't feel entirely projected through the instrumentation or vocals, but it's still a pretty decent song, so let's take a look.
Mother of Mercy's final rating is 9.37 out of 13.
Oh, Coming Home. I really love the intro to this. Sounds like to me someone peering out the window of a plane, flying above it all, seeing the splendor and being content yet sad. The verse, lyrics, and overall ambience are just beautiful, with the lyrics telling him reflecting on his life as a touring musician, relishing it yet kind of somber about the ephemeral nature of it all, holding his memories dear yet realizing how far we have to go as a worldwide civilization with our disunity and bigotry towards each other. The chorus carries over nicely from the pre-chorus and back into the second verse, telling the story beautifully of their journey back to England after a tour. The bridge keeps the mood intact, the solos are sad, and yet also hopeful that the path they chose is the right one, and has so much fun and fulfillment to offer them. Neutral or critical notes, the intro riff as well as the chorus are used a bit too much in the overall songscape, and some vibes are just a little bit off-center and not fully realized or projected, but this still is an amazing song, one of my top ones on the album. So, let's take a look at its rating.
Coming Home's final rating is 11.25 out of 13.
The Alchemist starts off awesomely with the guitar harmony and overall instrumentation conveying a mystical vibe with wonder and intrigue. The verses tell the story of Dees and his different experiments in his craft, the damage that he did, the fraud he committed himself to in the name of saving face around the royals and nobles. The pre-chorus has a great build-up and atmosphere as he hatches his plan to resurrect his fallen love, digging into the black arts to do so. Chorus also has a tangible vibe of unveiled monstrosities that he's conjuring up, the regret at doing so, yet he feels justified so he can see his love again. The bridge solos and unisons really convey well his struggle to contain these abominations of the abyss, trying to prevent his own undoing and salvage the shambles of his misdeeds. Neutral or critical notes, it's a little repetitive at times with the chorus and the intro riff, but still a very solid track. And there's just some subtleties missing in the conveyance of the story, despite the strong overall projection and great instrumentation. So, let's take a look at how that affected the rating.
The Alchemist receives a final rating of 11.68 out of 13.
Isle of Avalon. The intro, it's got an extended opening and it works pretty well to set the mood of wonder and mystique surrounding Avalon, its legendary status, and the ocean voyage in search of it, the protagonist's excitement and elation at sensing that he's closer to it. The chorus is pretty powerful, got a lot of different movements that work well off each other to convey the power of Mother Earth, the palpable aura of Avalon, and does a pretty good job throughout with that. The lyrics, working with the instrumentation, convey the lore and the legends of the Isle. Definitely has the tangible atmosphere of an ancient land, and its true nature is lost in the vaults of time. Neutral or critical, just doesn't feel quite full power for this song. Despite many strengths and a pretty good atmosphere overall, the soul of the song is just lacking some of the intangibles to put it over the top. Especially considering its epic scope and running time. So, let's take a look at how that affected it.
Isle of Avalon gets a final rating of 9.81 out of 13.
Starblind. The intro conveys the wonder of the heavens, the gods we thought occupied the celestial depths, and over time they became one unifying force. The verses pick up the heaviness a little bit with the guitar and really explore the empty promises of religious leaders, their deception and their greed to wield power over the masses. The bridge really takes you on the tormented journey, ending in defeat and disappointment for those who would follow these charlatans, holding up cinders from the fires of hypocrisy and falsehood. The lyrics are very cryptic and very introspective. They expose these facets of religion without making too flagrant of a statement. Very good, and one of the stronger songs on the album lyrically. Neutral or critical, the pacing feels a bit off at times, not entirely capturing the same vibes as that the lyrics are meaning to tell, and just transitions between different movements maybe could have been a little bit smoother to convey the moods better, but other than that, it's not all that bad of a song, so here's what I gave it.
And Starblind receives a final rating of 10 out of 13.
The Talisman. I love the acoustic intro for this. It perfectly captures the scene of someone waiting in line to board a ship. I can see in my mind's eye the sea, the harbor, the dock, the ship, the whole mood and scene just captured awesomely through the guitar. And then the lyrics that come in shortly afterwards feed off this intro, working well with the guitar to set the scene, conveying the emotions and thoughts of the people boarding the ship, wanting a new start and trying to avoid persecution from their countrymen, so they're fleeing and going to a new land. The second movement, the pace really picks up, perfectly capturing the raging sea, the turbulent waters, the sea spray soaking everybody, the undulating waves, also feeding into the mood of the fearful passengers. Just amazing passages. It's a steady build-up throughout this whole song. It's just one perfect transition movement to another. It's just phenomenal. You have to hear this song to really grasp it. But the lyrics here in this passage, when it picks up, very somber, as people are dying from ships sinking, but they don't have a lot of time to reflect too much on what's going on, just trying to hold on for their own sakes as the ships are tossed around and beaten into submission by the relentless storms that they're caught in. The breakdown between these different passages, there's this lead riff that plays where it's like it just, in and of itself, me just humming it doesn't necessarily convey, but within the context of the song, it conveys the inner turmoil and sadness as these people witness all the pain of their comrades dying under the waves, the tumultuous emotions they experience. You can really feel what they feel. It's just an amazing passage, and that lead riff really locks that into place for me. The third movement, after the second breakdown like that, conveying the rising and falling waves, the dangerous waters, just a great mood invoked by that passage. They did a really good job with the instrumentation. The arrangement of the song is just perfect for that. The chorus is amazing. The riff has soul, and it perfectly resonates with the indomitable spirit of the survivors of the storms. They make their way through the storm, and they make their way through their own selves, their own struggles inside as they brave on through this. The bridge conveys the continuing dangers of the storms as they head through them, and then finally breaking free and seeing land again. You can feel the atmosphere switch halfway through this little instrumental passage as their hope is fulfilled as they finally make it through. But you can still feel a little bit of sadness at their lost brethren on the voyage. The lyrics in the final passage, all I can say is wow. Perfect capture of the almost but not quite broken spirit of those who do make it, dying of illness and malnutrition, but still clinging on to the hope that they can survive and make a new life for themselves. Overall, just a fucking amazing song. It's beautiful, somber, sad, heart-wrenching, and just wow. That's about all I can say. Neutral, critical, perhaps some of the instrumentation could have been tweaked as far as transitions in certain parts, but extremely minor criticism for a near-perfect masterpiece. So let's take a look at its final rating.
Alright, so the Talisman receives a final rating of 12.96 out of 13.
The Man Who Would Be King. It's got a very somber intro, definitely has the vibe of one on a lonely contemplative journey to sort out his inner demons. The post-intro unison guitar, as it slowly builds up the mood, really establishes the volatile struggle of the man who would be king, I guess. Really trying to reconcile what he's done, fully justify it, but always still questioning whether or not he should have done this, or these things, whatever they are. The verses really put you into his mind. The lyrics, amazing. They really work well with the instrumentation to put you into that frame of mind, understand him as a person. It's just awesome. The pre-chorus with the lead riff, you can feel the regret, guilt, and remorse all coming to the surface as he's stricken with pain over all of the magnitude of it. The pacing and conveyance are tremendously done for this passage. And then the chorus is also just phenomenal. As far as the projection goes, he knows the fallacy of his position as king, but will try to make the most of it to do the greater good for all of his subjects, despite not wanting to do some of the deeds he is coerced into committing by the swaying masses, their public opinion. He's trying to make amends in his own moral fiber as he's going through all of this. The bridge just doesn't need any lyrics. It's an awesome instrumental passage. The story unfolds. It tells the king's continuing moral dilemma and that he asks God what he should do, feeling hopeless, desperate, sad, lonely, and dejected, but still trying to cope with the magnitude of it all. The second bridge, there's a tempo shift into the movement. It picks up the pace, and he resolves to carry on, feeling the burden lighten as he finally feels like he has at least some closure on the situation, having a little chat with God or whatever he does to mentally prepare himself and put himself back into a more objective state of mind about everything that he's going through. He's now hopeful that he can carry on with his life and still retain his humanity. The final passage is beautiful, very saddening, lonely, got the isolated vibes to it too. He's cordoned himself off from expressing too much of himself outwardly, and in doing so he feels false and hypocritical for putting up a facade for people. But he's always striving to uphold higher standards of conduct within himself as he does this. So there's definitely that dichotomy projected through the instrumentation. It's just amazing. Neutral or critical, some minor tweaks to the pacing and perhaps a little bit more emotional oomph could have put this one a little bit higher, but as it stands, this song is such a great package overall of what makes a soulful tune great. So, let's glimpse the rating.
Alright, so The Man Who Would Be King gets a 12.82 out of 13.
When the Wild Wind Blows. The intro really sets the stage well. There's wind blowing, and then the opening riffs after that where it's bass and guitar playing a quiet little passage, and Nico adding some cymbal accents here and there. You can really feel the sadness, desperation, and impending doom. It's kind of undefined at the beginning until you go through the song and read the lyrics as the story unfolds, and then you get a little bit better understanding of what that riff actually implies. But in any case, the second intro riff, you really get put into the head of the protagonist and his wife, their disgust and fear with the world and its ways, isolating themselves from the outside. The lyrics are really amazing at putting you into the characters' heads, coupled with the instrumentation and sound effects with the wind blowing and other sound effects that they use for sampling. Really carries the mood beautifully throughout the entire song. And I get so choked up and sometimes I cry while listening to or singing this song, especially headed into the middle of the track. Just a great message of hope conveyed throughout it though, even with the sad vibes. The main verses, you really feel his hopelessness, his paranoia, and his anger at what he perceives to be the deficiency of the people of the world, their inability to see what he feels should be obvious, that the world is being schemed and their minds are being programmed, that the end is near, and he just runs off into the paranoid tangent and really bitter and disenfranchised, almost beyond the point of salvation or hope. Post-second verse, the atmosphere really amps up in this passage, and this is one of the parts that gets me crying every time, or almost every time I listen to this song. It's just getting carried off into the story. It's a wonderful feeling, even though it is kind of saddening. It's just that they convey so much through such a simple passage. It's very emotionally charged. The riff and the overall arrangement is so powerful at putting you further into this character's mind and empathizing with his perspective, the turmoil he and his wife endure as they feel the end, or what they feel is the end approaching. The bridge riff is just amazing. The tension mounts, their worries start manifesting, just tumultuous and nearly overwhelming passage. The magnitude of projection conveyed in this entire passage with the solos, the pacing, the riffs, it's amazing. The third verse, things start to get serious as they buckle down and steel themselves for what's to come in the days to follow. Yet the lyrics also kind of tell the message of not letting your fear get the best of you, not to become paranoid, maintain your self-control in the face of a crisis so that you don't make an error in judgment and possibly regret it later. the final bridge leading into the conclusion, it's just an awesome riff. It really conveys well their final moments as they give in to the fear and they end up committing suicide. The reprise of the intro comes in after this from the beginning of the song, that movement, and comes full circle, taking on more meaning now as the couple are discovered embracing and they've taken poison and died. Overall, this song is just phenomenal. It's a perfect way to end an album. Near perfect ambience and moods throughout to get you progressively invested in the story and not let you go until it's over and you're left thinking of the implications of everything that's just happened. Neutral or critical, just ever so minor tweaks in the transitions between some of the passages could have improved the atmosphere very slightly, but in all seriousness, this is very minor in light of how well they put you into this story overall and how much impact it can resonate in your mind if you're in tune with its message. So, let's take a glance at its final rating.
When the Wild Wind Blows receives a 12.9 out of 13.
Alright, so there you have a track-by-track analysis of The Final Frontier. Now we're going to take a glimpse at its final rating on average and its ranking out of all 15 studio albums. So let's get started. Okay, so as you see, an amazing album by Iron Maiden, and hopefully this trend continues of steady improvement and more soul and depth in their songs as they release albums in the future. Hopefully they don't decide to hang it up just yet. And yeah, this top 5 albums, and it's due in large part to the final 3 songs, The Talisman, Men Who Would Be King, and When the Wild Wind Blows. Those are just amazing songs, and I'm glad that they saved those for the end of the album. It's a great way to build you up and just add so much impact to the final few tracks and really suck you into the different stories, and it's just awesome. So this is it for my album reviews for the foreseeable future. I've been having some difficulties. If you notice, the video quality on this one is a little bit different, and the audio quality for the ratings and for the spoken word intro with the different tour photos and everything like that. My main computer that has my webcam embedded in it shit the bed on me about 2 weeks ago now, and so I've been having to use my backup laptop, which is about 5 years old. It does not have a webcam, and so I'm using my digital camera to film all this, and also the microphone that is embedded in my laptop that I'm using right now is not as good of a quality as the one on my newer laptop, so until that gets up and running, this is what you get. But in any case, it's not bad. Actually, the video quality on this is a little bit better. Just the lighting, it has a little more yellowish tinge to it, but whatever. I got it finished, so thank everybody for watching. I know these didn't generate a whole lot of interest. Most of my subscribers, you guys aren't as into the music scene necessarily and just love the hot peppers, so I understand that. No hard feelings about that. But I'm putting myself out there, and this is what I love doing, is listening to music too, in addition to gardening. So thank you everybody, take care, and I will see you with some more chili videos coming up soon. Bye bye.